Hello, I'm Anthony. All of the music that I write has two output buses. Here they are, master bus and stereo out. And they have a linear relationship. In other words, master bus has a single output, which is stereo out. That has a single input, which is master bus, stereo out goes to the outside world. So why on earth do I have this linear relationship? Well, there are several very good reasons, and that's what we're going to talk about today. If you enjoy this video, check out my Patreon and YouTube channel member links below. It's an awesome way to help support my channel. The first thing that we need to do is to distinguish the purpose of each of these output buses. They have very distinct purposes. The master bus is a song bus, and the stereo out is a product bus. What I mean by that is that the master bus contains all of the information involved in generating the musical notes, the musical information that constitutes this song. The stereo output bus, on the other hand, is an entirely audio-centric bus. It's only interested in delivering a product of a specific volume to your ears via a delivery mechanism. This song is going to be output to a WAV file. The master bus takes care of the song. The stereo out takes care of that output of the audio file. And that's a really important distinction. As I'm going to show you today via several examples, each of these buses has a completely different set of responsibilities, and there's a very good reason for splitting them into two. So let's get into the details, start looking at some specific examples. In this song, I have 3 insert effects on the master bus. I actually made a video very recently talking about those specific inserts. So if you're interested in knowing what job those inserts are doing, I'll put a link to that above. But essentially, the master bus is where the rest of the output tracks, you can see I have 5 sub-masters, all of which feed into this thing. You can see my routing strategy up at the top. So we have 5 groups feeding into the master bus. The master bus has its suite of insert effects, which basically polish up the song ready for delivery. As far as this track's concerned, the only important thing is that I never exceed 0 dB full scale. In other words, I never digitally clip. That's a physical requirement of all digital audio equipment. Every single track in your project has to subscribe to that rule. With that said, the master bus doesn't actually care what the overall output volume is. That's for something else to worry about. That's for the stereo out bus to worry about. And so when I'm mixing this song, the total global output at the end of all of the insert chain can be pretty much wherever you want it to be. Let's have a quick look at what the current volume is. I'm most interested in the true peak, the absolute loudest that this song ever reaches. -6. Plenty of headroom. There are many people who would say that's a little bit hot. I'm perfectly happy at -6. In fact, one of the things that I do before I mix a song down is to play the entire thing and ensure this value never gets anywhere near 0. I usually operate at maybe -2, something like that at the absolute loudest. So as long as the master bus is conforming to that single technical requirement, I'm free to mix this song in any way that I want. That combined output is then passed into the stereo out track. This is the one that's responsible for delivering the actual physical product to the outside world. I'm going to output a WAV file or an MP3 file. In order to do that, I now need to conform to an international standard. I'm going to upload this song to YouTube, which requires that the entire song from beginning to end has a total loudness value not exceeding -14 loudness units full scale. We don't need to understand or worry about what that technical requirement is. Suffice to say, it's actually a pretty complicated thing to calculate. Loudness is a very subtle and difficult beast to wrap your head around because the human ear has a variable frequency response. And over the years, the broadcasting community as a whole actually invented in the TV broadcasting industry loudness units full scale, and then it was carried over into music. But we basically developed this standard whereby we say, if you're going to deliver a product to the outside world, it has to be no louder than this. And this prevents, for instance, advertisers having their adverts louder than the program that they're interrupting so that they blast their adverts at you. That was the original reason why the LUFS scale was developed, to stop that from happening. And so now we have this standard, that's a physical standard applying to the product. And so it goes on the stereo out bus. And so the tool that does that job, in my case, Ozone, goes on the stereo out bus. This product, using a feature called Learn Threshold, is able to set the entire volume of the song from beginning to end to exactly minus 14 LUFS. And you can see the maximization rules that are being applied to it. Effectively, it's maximizing or normalizing the volume of my product so that I meet this international standard. This has got nothing to do with the song. This is an entirely sound-based, volume-based concept. The second product I have on the stereo out bus is a brick wall limiter, and this is a safety net. If I ever do anything in my song, for instance, I maybe introduce feedback or suddenly turn a distortion unit on that's got everything set to maximum and suddenly outputs a very, very loud signal, I'm wearing headphones. I don't want my ears to get damaged. And so right at the end of the output chain, after everything else has happened, I have a brick wall limiter set to minus 0.1 decibels. So it doesn't matter how loud the output tries to get to the outside world, this tool prevents that damage happening to my ears. So they're two entirely utilitarian tools that have no interest in the song, they're only interested in correcting and adjusting the volume level. Maintaining that clear delineation between those sets of responsibilities is very useful, really aids with your clarity of thought. The next point that I'm going to make also kind of involves Ozone 9, but from a slightly different perspective. And this is that the stereo out bus never has automation, and the master bus may have automation. It doesn't always. In this particular song, I do have volume automation on the master bus, but the stereo out doesn't. What that means is that I can control the volume of the stereo output, so I can get this song running in the background. You're not going to hear it, so I'm talking to you over the top of this song. I make YouTube videos. This is one of the requirements of me personally, that I need to be able to mix the volume of my microphone with the volume of the song. And having this distinction where the master bus is completely independent and currently has read automation on the volume, so I can't actually pick this. You can see me picking the volume up and it just snaps back immediately. So if I wanted to talk to you over the top of this piece of music and I only had the master bus, I would need to disable the read automation first. Well, I don't want to be worried about that. So I'm able to implement this rule on all of the music that I write, that I ensure no automation ever goes on the stereo out bus. That gives me complete control of the technical process of how loud this thing is, completely independent of the musical mix, the audio mix of the piece of music. The reason it ties in with Ozone quite nicely is that because Ozone is on the stereo out bus, and the stereo out bus is completely flat. There are never any other effects on it. It's purely there as a delivery mechanism. When I come to export this song, I set the stereo out bus to 0 dB. That's the lexicon reverb you can hear hissing in the background there. I know that that's going to set the right volume. In other words, the song's going to be output at the minus 14 LUFS that Ozone has calculated. So this really clear, kind of very sharp delineation between the two allows me to be super simple when I come to do this stuff. I don't have to worry about what level did I mix the master bus at, what level do I need to set in order to ensure that the minus 14 target that Ozone's calculated is actually going to be correct. None of that concerns me. Set the stereo out to 0 and the job's done. For the next example, I'm actually going to remove Ozone from the stereo out bus, because I need to actually play the keyboard and it introduces a very significant latency. It's the thing that you do right at the end of your songwriting process. What I'm going to do now is add a piano to this song, but instead of routing it to the keys master bus, which is where I would normally send all of my keyboard sounds, I'm routing it directly to the stereo out. What this means is that I can have the song playing in the background as quiet as I like. I've disconnected the song from the physical process of me doing the recording. Once again, the technical process of getting this piano into the song is different from the balance that that piano is ultimately going to have when I come to mix it. So I want to hear this piano much louder than everything else. And by having two stereo outputs, I can essentially leapfrog the song. The song is going to the master bus, the piano line is going to the stereo out. The final example I'm going to give you today concerns referencing. I'm going to output the song as it currently is with these insert effects exactly as it sounds right now. If I head into the export page, I can select a multiple output and then select the master bus itself. So I only need to select that single group track. And as long as I've properly configured it to output all of the inserts, anything that's going on inside the track, I'm going to generate an audio track corresponding to the song in its current state. I'm just going to export a 4-bar section here for the sake of speed. So what we've got on this audio track down here is a complete version of the song in its current state. If I solo this audio track, and note it's currently routing directly to the stereo out, once again leapfrogging the song, a brand new product is being inserted in its place and output directly to the stereo output. Now when I press play, you're listening to this audio track. What this now allows me to do is to go back into my master bus, change all of these effects to whatever I want, choose a new compressor, new preamp, any changes that I want to make. I can now A/B between the actual song and the previous version of the song as it was. Like I say, imagine this is a reference track that you're recording against as well. I don't want to use copyrighted material in this video, so I'm not going to import a reference track. But any audio that you import from externally can now be compared with your existing song just with the use of the solo button. Without having this independent stage that you can bypass in this way, these kinds of jobs become very difficult. And so having the split output bus approach like this is absolutely invaluable to me. I use all of these tools on every project that I write and couldn't be without any of them. Hope you found this video useful today. Please hit like if you did. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'll see you next time. Thanks very much.